somebody asking about the video I think that I made in March. I think someone was confused about it or something like that. Yes, I still am and will always be. I'll always wait. I want to explain something because I think people get confused because I sometimes will explain that I am LGBT, right? And for me, it's like I have a situation where I try to conform, I guess you could say. I conform like this. Not like seriously conform. Oh, weird. It doesn't really seem like my screen. Well, anyway, it's fine. But like I try to conform when it comes to gender and all that shit, okay? Sometimes. But I really was thinking about my gender identity and my whole issue with that. Because I've talked about it, I think, 3 times. One time I said I was a masculine woman. Another time I talked about my job with, what's it called? My telephone interview experience, where I said when I was a teen, I used to prank call people, telling them I was a guy and all that stuff. And I would take guys' photos and I would pretend I was a guy, this is a weird part about it. It's not really the weird part being the gender part for me because I've always known that about me. Like when I was like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I didn't know about gender enough. I just thought that females were people who had no penis, basically. I didn't know I had a vagina until I was like 9, I think. You can't really find it down there. And then when I was 9, I think I just knew I was bleeding because my period. But anyway, um, so I just knew you look different down there and you grow breasts. But I didn't really actually know the difference between a woman and a man. The reason why I didn't know this was because, well, I grew up with a single mom. And my mom has hands like mine. You see? You see? Can see how my finger is prominent. She has fingers just like mine, which means when we were in vitro, we were masculinized, basically. Um, More testosterone, basically, in utero when you have a prominent ring finger, basically. And if you have a prominent pointer finger, you have more estrogen. It shows basically your environment in vitro, basically. So basically, I say that because my mother has masculine qualities. Now, she will tell you she's feminine, I guess, and I have qualities like her in a sense where I can do some things that she does that are feminine. That's why I can dress up and all that stuff and be feminine, basically. The thing is about me is the only time I really want to be feminine at all is right before my period or now, right on my period, literally. And then 2, 3 days after my period, I'm back to just feeling like I'm a guy again. So it's like my mind wants to get me used to the fact that I'm gonna bleed, and then after I'm done bleeding, I'm back to feeling like I'm a guy again. And I've always felt like maybe there's a hormonal imbalance, but then again, I've gotten tested for that. And I had prolactin that was higher levels. It was 35. No, the first time it was 24, and then the second time it was 35. But, yeah, I had the levels that were higher, and they said that it would cause problems with fertility. And oh yeah, I had progesterone that was flat. It was like no progesterone, I think they said. I had none, which that goes into what I'm going to talk about in a sec. But anyway, um, this was when I was 22, though. But I mean, like, I've had this problem since I was 10, I think, where I just feel more feminine right before my period. And, like, when I'm ovulating, it's different. It's kind of like I am sexualized. A lot of my femininity is very sexualized. Like, I realize with men, it's almost like I try to be with men so I can feel more like a woman. Being completely honest. Like, that's a part of it. Whereas, like, especially right when I'm ovulating. Before then, I don't really have that much interest in sex with a man as a woman. I would prefer if I like had male parts to have sex with him that way. Um, but nowadays, it's like when I'm ovulating is the main time when I'm like basically more feminine sexually. And it's like I've tried to have sex with guys when I'm not ovulating before, and it always feels awkward. Like, trying to take a submissive role is weird for me at that time. But it's a lot easier when I'm ovulating. And my ovulation usually takes 17 days. It's not the normal 14 days and 28 days. I'm 32, I think, days. And I'm like 17 days, but then there's like a build up like 5, 6 days beforehand. And then it's better, 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 better. And then I'm just like really wild. This is why, like, for 1 week, I basically, I, maybe I shouldn't talk about that actually, but basically, I'm a very hypersexual person on my week, basically. And then right before I have my period, I'm hypersexual too. And so I guess you could say maybe it has to do with my hormones, but I always thought if my hormones were regulated, then I would end up feeling like I was just a guy. Because I always figured, obviously, I'm hypersexual when I am more feminine. So it's like, to me, I'm like, well, it must be more to do with the fact that I have ovaries. And so then my mind is more feminized, I guess, slightly. But even then, I feel like when I think about things or how I react to certain things, I'm like, I'm not that, feminine on those matters. It's just kind of like I'm, I'm kind of like, how do you explain? Like, I'm slightly more, I'm kind of like performatively feminine, basically, but not feminine in the sense of like my inner self. This is why with relationships with men, it's always like I don't like the role the guy takes because I'm not taking the role I'm supposed to take. I really am not. To me, I'm just like, I don't want to take that role. And then some people, I've gone to therapy about this and talked about it, and they always say, that what I should be doing is probably transitioning, and living as a guy. But I, there's plenty of reasons why I don't want to do it. It's because one, I don't want to regret it. Two, I kind of feel weird about it. Three, like, when I was in college, I actually made a paper on why I thought transitioning was, like, I don't care what other people do, but personally, it's like, why can't I love myself for who I am? Like, why? I always feel like transitioning to live as a guy because I think like a guy would just basically mean that I'm I'm giving in to society. And the reason why I feel like I'm giving in to society is because it's like, well, you guys say, oh, a man is supposed to do this, a man is supposed to do that, a man is supposed to do this. Heck, I think similarly to a guy. I do many things similar to guys. But that doesn't change basically how I physically am biologically. So biologically, I still am gonna bleed every month. Biologically, I'm gonna naturally, be shorter, have breasts, all that stuff. Okay, but mentally, I'm always going to be the way I am too. And that's the thing with me is that I don't want to change my personality to try and fit what a woman is supposed to be. But I don't want to change my body either, as much as I would love. And honestly, I have forms of dysphoria. I do. I've always felt deformed down there. And, I've always felt uncomfortable I've always felt uncomfortable about having a vagina. Just being completely honest. I think it's ugly. I think it's weird. I think who really has a gaping hole that's just there? Like, to me, yeah, I feel like it's deformed and I don't like it. I don't. But the thing is about the whole situation is just like changing it when I was 14, I considered, what do you need to do to change, right? What do you need to do to actually live as a guy? Would you be able to like have some kind of phalloplasty? And the thing is with that is, I felt like when I looked it up, I felt comfortable with the situation because it's like I felt like it might not work. From the information I was reading, they were older books. I've looked into it lately, and I follow some people. That's why I follow, I follow different types of people, but I generally follow FTM, um, transgender people, and I also follow people, and I like to follow these people more than I like to follow the FTM trans men, because the reason why is because I like to see the downside. So then if I do this ever, I will know I really did consider the downside, basically. So basically when it comes to that, I would always follow like detransitioners. Like I follow Elle, I follow Rival Maverick, I follow what's her name? I forget her name. She's got black hair, brown eyes. I think no, her eyes are blue. Oops. um, I can't think of her name. There's another person I follow too. They're all detransitioners, and I have a similar mindset to that, where like I kind of feel like the way one is, even if it is trans, is it really a need to transition just off of that? For me, it's like my main thing with transitioning isn't me mentally. It's just like for me mentally, I know I'm different than a woman because I just know that's a part of me being different. But more my problem always is dysphoria, because I have really bad symptoms of dysphoria in different situations. And that's in part what happened, because I did do a video of me being masculine, a video about basically my history on basically when I was a teen. I never really liked to think of myself as a female. Like I never did. Online, I never really had a social life of me being just a woman. I never liked admitting that I had a vagina. That's one part that made me feel very weak and insignificant and really shitty. Like, really shitty. Um, so basically, the next thing was, you know, there's things that make me triggered, I guess, with like dysphoria when it comes to like having sex with men. That can sometimes make me triggered, but like I said, this is why it would be a problem for me when I would have sex with men when I wasn't ovulating. When I'm ovulating, it can work out because it's like, I don't know, something hormonally is different, so then I'm able to have sex. But then when I'm not ovulating, it's just not working really. So basically, I had a situation where I have sex when I'm ovulating often, but I'm on birth control and I use condoms. But I guess there was a mistake of some sort, and I ended up I I didn't end up really pregnant, like really pregnant. So to me, I always kind of try to think of it as not really pregnant because I was only like I had like a positive pregnancy test. It was like one pregnancy test, then another pregnancy test I took like I think 2 days later, and they were both positives. And then I was late on my cycle like 3 or 4 days, so not that long. And then after that, I had my period. So I mean, I guess technically I was, to some small technical sense. And I was talking about this actually during the time I would talk about it on different um I talked about it on different people's pages on YouTube. But I didn't talk about it on mine because I was just really uncomfortable with talking about it, really honestly, because it was just really it was a lot to really process for me because it was 1 second you are pregnant and then the next second you're not, and then it's just like, and that's one thing why I make that third video, and it's because for me, I I had a whirlwind of feeling differently anyway because I had symptoms, I had different things going on with my hormones, and then I made that other video because I was just tired of basically being a woman because it was just like, I don't know, like I felt like really, like, for one, like some of my symptoms, the fire ants, feeling really tired, and then I could smell everything, and I felt lightheaded, and then on top of it, it was like, and I guess I miscarried or had my period or whatever. I had like a really, 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 really bad like situation where I was like, felt like I was gonna have a heart attack, honestly. And I don't know why I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack, but I did. I felt like it was really, really, really bad, and I could hardly even sleep. And then I just like it was like afterwards, I just had like really, I bled really hard, basically. And I just was scared, and so that's why I made that video because I was just like, if I wasn't a woman, I would not be going through this, you know? And, as a person with a perspective of not really wanting to be a woman anyway, like, I mean, it really did make me think I should really make sure that this can never happen again and I should probably transition. Um, and I don't know, I just kind of am like of the mindset, I don't think I could ever handle being pregnant, really honestly, because, I mean, like, when I thought I was like gonna be pregnant for a while, I guess, or whatever, I wasn't really considering like any like kind of termination or anything. Um, I felt really uncomfortable with it. I did. I felt like a monster. Like I felt like something was terribly wrong with me that occurred. I felt I just felt like a creature, like something was terribly wrong. But honestly, when we talk about me and how I feel about my body physically, there's a lot of times where I don't really associate with my physical body really because it's just like I said, I have a lot of dysphoria. So I guess my best way of coping with it is just like, oh well, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like, well, actually, I get why that is actually now that I think of it, but I don't think that's something I really want to share. But it's just kind of like a disconnect kind of for me because it's just like I feel like my it's I don't know, I just feel different from like I'm a different person than what I appear to be on the outside, basically. And I've gotten used to that. It's not like something that I'm like wanting to it's not bad enough where like I'm feeling like suicidal or anything. Like people who are, um transgender, many of the time they feel suicidal and they can't live in the biological sex that they were born. For me, it's like I don't feel like I can't live as that biological sex. It's just like I know it seems weird to me, and I just don't really think about that aspect to me. I do, though, have a side to me that's more, I guess, feminine in the sense of like, I don't mind like getting like dolled up to an extent. And the thing is with me, with that, is just like I have a female face. So if I was to try and make myself look like a guy, I don't think it would really work. And honestly, I feel like I look more, like, I think I make my jaw look a little bit more harder. Yeah, it does look a little bit harder, than when I'm like without makeup, basically. And, without makeup, I don't like how I have a softish face for me. It's and I've shown my photos and stuff without makeup. You can see my face is just a little roundish, and it makes me have a little bit. I never really paid attention to it because people would always like say I look nice or I look cute or whatever without makeup, and I would always be like ugh, kind of like thing. And the reason I'd be like ugh is because I don't like the softness I see in my face when I don't wear makeup. And, another part is my brows, because I make my brows more straight, because my brows are a little bit more arched. Female brows tend to be more arched. And, my brow ridge isn't the best. So, I mean, it kind of like helps, for me at least. But, I mean, I know I'm obviously presenting very feminine right now, but you know, what I'm just trying to say is that for me, I basically made that video, a third video, because of the whole pregnancy situation and how it kind of triggered me for a while. And I was like really considering actually transitioning. And I was trying to talk to actually transgender people about like how their experience was being pregnant and stuff and how it made them feel. And I heard a lot of them say that it did make them more exacerbated that they were pregnant. So I'm like, it's probably not very healthy for me to be pregnant, and thankfully it ended. And I didn't. have to go through with it or anything. But I mean, it had a hold on me for like a couple weeks afterwards too. Even after I bled, I think it was just like maybe like the hormones weren't done. I don't know, like I took a test, I think like 3 days after I was bleeding, and I got a negative again. And I get negatives normally. I don't get any fake stuff usually, which this time, I mean, I literally saw a line. And I could post a photo of it as well. I posted photos on, like I said, YouTube, and I talked to like a few other people as well on it at the time. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I think people kind of got confused by that video because I was saying that I was tired of being a woman, and I was literally tired of being a woman. I mean, like, if you go through something like that, most of the people that I talk to that went through what they call chemical pregnancies, it's not very pleasant for them either, and they are happy being women. So, I mean, it wasn't pleasant for them. And for me, it's just like, it was another layer. Like, I was sad, kind of, because um, I was kind of sad about the situation, and, like, I don't really like to think about it, really, honestly, on that level. Um, but I was kind of, um, I wasn't too happy, about that. But it was like I couldn't really even deal with that because I had all the other issues that I was dealing with as well, you know. So, just in total, I mean, that whole situation, yeah, thinking about it makes me think, yeah, I should probably transition. But yeah, I don't know. I always feel like if I transitioned, I would end up like that dude in Belgium, I think, who selected for like kind of legal euthanization or whatever because he thought he basically saw a monster and not he didn't turn out to be a man. And that's the thing with me, is just that like I have a select idea in my mind what a woman and a man is. And to me I think like I don't think I could be a man. I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel I'm strong enough. I don't feel my bones are big enough. I don't feel I'm tall enough. I just don't feel masculine enough, And so, oh, my ear's popping. That was weird. But I don't really feel, like I'm just good enough for it. And I feel like if I went and did it and I ended up where I felt like it wasn't the right thing for me or like it wasn't going to work, and I tried to detransition, it would be a really dark road from there. And that's why I guess I watch channels with like detransitioners, because I like to see how their situation is and how much of a struggle it is if it's a fail, rather than just seeing the good results and then being hoodwinked by good results and then ending up with bad results and not even expecting it or knowing what to do next. You know, so that's why for me it's just kind of like, yeah, I have my own personal issues with it. I've talked, like I said, to therapists on it, and they always say I'm basically trans. From some of the things I describe, my issues that I have, especially with my dysphoria, um, that many of the time they just say that I'm trans, and that the only thing to basically treat someone with dysphoria is transitioning. And it's like, I just wish there was another way, And another thing is, for me, it's like, what do I really need to transition? You know what I mean? Do I really need to transition to live as a guy? If, like, for example, my mother is more masculine to some extent, as she has the same thing with her fingers. And she doesn't want to transition. She's happy the way she is. Now, the way she behaves and things of that nature, yes, it's very masculine in some ways. She's more of a executive, more of a um, she's just more, I don't know, she's just more unconventionally feminine, I would say. And to me, sometimes I think, well, couldn't I be unconventionally feminine? Or just a woman who's more of a tomboy, you know? And I could be, but the thing is, the dysphoria is why I always consider, well, maybe it's a little too much to just live as a woman. But, I mean, I don't feel suicidal, so then I'm like, well, then I guess it's not that serious of dysphoria. I've heard some people say that they actually experience physical pain because of their dysphoria. I don't feel any pain because of my dysphoria. It's just personal thoughts of my female parts that I just think are, gross. I don't like the softness. I really don't, and it's just, it's out of place when you aren't a soft person yourself. When people see a weak, soft person, it is annoying too because people treat you like a weak, soft person. And then you're like having to prove something more than you need to. You know, and then people get mad because they're like, oh, the weak, soft person is trying to basically, prove themselves. And then they try and cut you down because you're acting out of line, basically. So it's just like, to me, it is a problem socially, but I'm like, I don't think that's enough to even want to transition because other people shouldn't dictate what I do with my life. But the dysphoria is what it is. And I just basically try to hold on until I can't, basically. Because, like I said, I have my concerns and issues with doing it myself. I don't care what others do, but for me, I have issues with it. And plus, the whole thing of my cycle, and sometimes I'm more feminine, and other times I'm not. And the thing is, like I said, on this part where I'm more feminine in my cycle, I still don't really feel like a woman. I just feel feminine. And like, I want to be like other women, basically. And that's the whole thing with the sexualized side of it. It's just like, you know, you want to emphasize that you're a woman and you feel like maybe a man can emphasize that for you, and make you somehow feel or think that you are a woman or be okay with it. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't do anything. For a short while, you do feel good, though. I mean, I like sex, so. But it's just, yeah, I don't know. Uh, I just basically explaining my whole situation with my gender identity issues. And I think I know that a lot of people who are subscribed or who watch my channel, they don't feel comfortable. I don't think maybe you don't feel comfortable. Some of you don't feel comfortable with me talking about that, so I don't talk about it too much. But somebody brought it up, so I thought I would talk about it a bit. Um, yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I know this is a long video, but I have so much more to say, but I'm gonna end it there. So, bye.